always going to show up because it is just that much fun. It's that party, and it does live up to the term shenanigans. And sometimes we get a little bit of trouble from our good friends at WrestleCon because a lot of the talent shows up hungover or they show up late. It's not our fault. We're dealing with adults, but, you know, when there's all-you-can-drink alcohol involved at these parties, that's usually how it ends up.
Yeah, it's all about responsibility, so do not blame shenanigans for that. So for adult choices, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's not my fault, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
Yeah, and, if you want more information and how to get tickets for shenanigans, it's on my Twitter account, at David Herro with Herro. It's the top pinned tweet, I think, is what they say it is right now. So it's the first tweet you're going to see with all the information. And of course, if you follow Kevin Nash on Twitter at Real Kevin Nash, he's been tweeting about it as well. Nice. So all the information is right there on the Eventbrite site.
Once again, we're here live with David Herro of Great Lakes Championship Wrestling and Shenanigans Party, WrestleMania weekend. Go and support. I've been there. I've been to two of them. I went to the one in Orlando and got to chat with James Storm, ODB, Chavo. There was a lot of people that I got to chat with. You know,
Jeff Jarrett was there. Eric Bischoff was there.
Yeah.
Blue Meanie was there. Yep. I mean,
Billy Gunn.
You turn around to, even Gabriel Iglesias, even Fluffy, he shows up. So you never know who's going to make it.
That's right. Last year I was there in New Orleans and got to chat with one of the boys, Kenny King, MVP, Caprice Coleman. There was a lot of people there that I got to chat with as well. So it was a pretty good show and definitely a journalist's dream. But on the other end, I couldn't really do on the spot interviews with many people because they took a little bit too much, digestion of some type of fluid that we just referred to. So
and exactly. And the thing is that when they show up at Shenanigans, they don't want to work. They've been working all weekend.
That's true.
They just want to chill out, have a good time, have fun with their pals, have a few drinks, maybe a few shots, maybe a few drinks and shots, or just shots. So,
that's really hard to tell to a journalist because it's like, if I can get an interview at 1 o'clock in the morning, for breaking news, I'm in. So it's always, as a journalist, it's not really an off button. So when you go, so but yeah, I did manage to tone it down tremendously when I was at both events, both years, and I didn't necessarily have my journalist hat on. I did, in a sense, but not on 10 like I typically do when I try to find when I'm around wrestling talent or I speak with wrestling talent. Go to Shenanigans. It's fun. For all you journalists out there, don't prepare yourself to put your hat on at this event, but you do get a chance to meet some great stars, and I've been twice, and I'll plan on going this year too, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Are you there, David? Hello? All right. I don't know if we lost David or not. Are you there, David? All right. Let's see. I think I should be still on. I think we lost David. I think we lost the hero. Let me get right back with him. I think we might have lost the hero. Let's see. Let's get this taken care of. Are you there, David? Are you there, David? All right. He's going to call back. We're going to get him. He's going to call right back. We're live, pal. All right, here we go. There he is. All right. Okay. Okay, we're gonna get David Herro right back on the show here. All right, for those who are watching live through Wrestling Inc., it seems like there's some crazy. That's the reason why Plan B is the way to go, because doing it with this blog talk is starting to get on my nerves here. So we, I'm considering doing Plan B for good. We'll get everything started and up and rolling. It was just with David Herro, and somehow his call dropped out the queue, and then my call dropped out the queue. So we will get this done now.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Please enter your host pin. When finished, press the pound key. Now, press 1 to hear important instructions. Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
All right, back in full effect. Are you there, David?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I don't know exactly what's happening here, but all right. But as Jim Ross would say, we're live, pal. All right, so anyways, the chat room is lit here. Everything is looking good.
Oh boy.
Here. Yeah, the chat room is absolutely lit. All right, so let's get back into. So yeah, we were talking about shenanigans. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to talk a little bit more about it here at the end. Unfortunately, we're going to somber it down just a little bit. Unfortunately. Couple of weeks ago, WWE made the announcement on their site, but of course, you broke the announcement that a legend in the business, King Kong Bundy, unfortunately passed away, and I'm sure it was quite hard for you as you made it public. You expressed that publicly, and of course, his family and other friends, and just a real tough spot. And Bundy was such a... I grew up watching wrestling in the 80s, and when you thought about heel, you thought about King Kong Bundy. He was one of... Him and Andre were... I think him, Andre, and Stud, to me, were like the three big men of the 80s. And it's like... just WrestleMania 2, the cage match in Los Angeles against Hogan for the WWE Championship. Just, if I'm not mistaken, just a year after he debuted. That's how much the WWE saw him as such a big player. Debut a year after his WWE debut, he gets a big spot. I think it was like almost a year to the day. If I'm not mistaken, his debut was in March of '84. And March of '85, and then '86 was WrestleMania 2 in I believe March of '86 or early April.
Let's not forget, Bundy was in his mid-20s at that time.
Yes.
Also. He was still very young.
Yeah, he was. And obviously Vince McMahon saw so much in him as a player. And let's not forget, before Bundy went to the WWE, he was the man in World Class, Mid-South, Georgia Championship Wrestling. And so, for 2 or 3 years, he really cemented himself as one of the top heels in all of professional wrestling. And just in 3 or 4 short years of even starting professional wrestling, he became one of the biggest heels in WWE. That is huge. That's a huge achievement, especially in a day and age where, Hogan was such a big name. And if someone was going to kind of be a big player versus Hogan, you had to be someone who was such an amazing heel to make Hogan look like a star, because that was kind of like the focus, to make Hogan look like a star, and he had to go against the heelest of heels. And he was such a legend in the business. And just let the live crowd and those who are listening via audio, just your relationship personally with Bundy. I know that you've known him for over a couple of decades, and became one, a very close friend with him. Just share your thoughts on just your personal relationship with Bundy.
Yeah, he was a man's man. I mean, you always knew where you stood with Bundy. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was honest. He didn't pull any punches. If he liked you, he liked you. If he didn't like you, he would tell you that he didn't like you. Mm-hmm. He was just a funny guy. I mean, he had a very dry sense of humor. He was charming, which is hard to believe because he was such a dastardly villain. I mean, for me, my favorite tag team was Bundy and Studd, and I'll never forget when I got to watch Bundy and Studd against the British Bulldogs one time. It was fantastic. But he's just a good person, and I've known him for, I want to say, 22 years. He did appearances for me. He's wrestled on shows for me. At one time he was the GLCW heavyweight champion. And, you always knew where you stood with him, and his word was his bond. And he's just a great guy. And when it was crazy because I was sitting at home, it was during Monday Night Raw, and I got a phone call from somebody at WWE, and they said, "Hey, do you have King Kong Bundy's phone number?" I'm like, "Well, of course," because Bundy and I were supposed to be doing WrestleCon together. Mm-hmm. And I go, "What's going on?" And they go, "Well, we got some news." So I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe they're going to put him in the Hall of Fame, even though I knew he wasn't on the list. But I'm like, oh, okay, well, what's going on? And they're like, well, we heard he wasn't well. And I'm like, I go, you guys heard he died. So now, of course, I'm like, well, what the heck? Because I was trying to get a hold of him for the last 2 days, and, I didn't. So I reached out to one of his family members. And I said, hey, I'm hearing rumblings that Chris isn't doing well, that he might even die. And I'm like, yeah, he had passed. So we were talking. I said, well, hey, WWE wants to make a statement, and will you give them permission? And she's like, well, I'd rather wait till tomorrow so we know what's going on. I'm like, well, that's fine. We can do that. I just did a search on Twitter, and some people locally that live in South Jersey are talking about how he already died. And they said, well, hey, then please put out a statement for us because, he loved you and you guys were friends. He would much rather have you break it than someone that he didn't know.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, and keep in mind, a month and a half earlier, we buried another one of my good friends in Gene Okerlund. And I'm like, this is crazy. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, what do I say about Bundy? And I didn't know because, I'm the first person that's going to announce this. Mm-hmm. And, it's the truth. We lost a legend, and a great man.
Yeah. Yeah, that had to be tough. That had to be really, really tough. Oh, lost him again, man. Keeps dropping. Keeps dropping. I don't know why this call keeps dropping, guys. This is getting quite annoying. Quite annoying. Or quite annoying.
Please enter your host pin when finished.
Quite annoying. Oh, boy. Sorry, guys.
To start your show now, press 1. Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
That put Hulk Hogan in the hospital in Phoenix on Saturday night's main event.
Yeah, and here's and that's a good point. And I think that with Bundy's just advent into WWE in the mid '80s, I think, and I talked about this on my personal Twitter, and I think and you definitely talked about it too. I actually wrote an article about it. Why is Bundy not in the Hall of Fame? I mean, of course, we don't know, but except for WWE. But I mean, just the legacy that he drew, the legacy that he brought, just within the '80s, being one of the biggest '80s wrestlers, and of course, not a knock on anybody else necessarily, not a knock on anybody else in the Hall of Fame. But I would say, that there are others who didn't reach the main event status as Bundy did, and still, are in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? And just from a comparison standpoint, King Kong Bundy was a WWE main eventer, and then came back in '94.
He headlined WrestleMania too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He
the
headlined
second
WrestleMania too.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, the very fact that you used the first WrestleMania, and people said this a lot, it's been reported throughout the years, it was a gamble for McMahon. It was one of the biggest, the biggest gamble that McMahon ever had. Basically his company, this has been reported for years, his company really hinged on WrestleMania. One, it became a success, and the very next year, still the infancy of WrestleMania, the second ever WrestleMania, he had enough faith in the personality and in the heel character of King Kong Bundy to headline his second ever WrestleMania show against Hulk Hogan. I mean, that alone to me, that earns a lot of credentials to me.
Well, and here's what Bundy had going for him. Cosmetically, he was the perfect heel for Hulk Hogan.
Absolutely.
I mean, keep in mind, Hulk Hogan was a beast.
Mm-hmm.
6'4", 6'5", 320, jacked. So you needed a heel that was physically bigger.
Yep.
And the beauty about Bundy is, he worked stiff in the ring, but everyone knew that they'd be safe with him because he never hurt anybody. Mm-hmm. So, so you had this big, menacing man in King Kong Bundy. He wasn't jacked. He wasn't suntan. He was bald. He was kind of like the Lex Luthor to Hulk Hogan's Superman.
Yeah, that's good.
He had Bobby Heenan. He had John Studd. And he was so massive. You weren't used to seeing guys that massive. Mm-hmm. And for him, oh my God, he put Hulk Hogan in the hospital, crushed his ribs and everything else. Before that, they broke under the giant sternum. It's just, he was a great villain. And Hulk Hogan knew he could draw money with King Kong Bundy. And that's what they did.
Yep. I agree. 100%. And then he came back and had a marquee WrestleMania match against The Undertaker. So it's like,
right.
So obviously,
which he hated. He hated the match because they couldn't do much.
True.
Bundy wasn't going to take a tombstone.
Right. Right.
And was a choke slam really believable? With a guy that's almost 500 pounds back then. So
now,
when Bundy left, he did the whole computer thing, and
right.
and he told me that Vince and company were hot about that because they didn't get a cut of it.
Mm-hmm.
So then when he came back in the mid-90s, he just said, hey, I'm doing jobs to the Shawn Michaels and all these smaller guys, and he just said that, yeah, the money was okay. It wasn't what he thought it was going to be, and as soon as he could get out of there, he did. And King Kong Bundy, I mean, he wasn't the kind of guy that'd be like, okay, I'm going to go back for a payday. If he wasn't happy, he was going to leave, and that's exactly what he did.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was the reason? Is that the reason why he went against Taker is because he was the squeaky wheel, so to speak, when he was. Like, what was the purpose of him coming back? Did they have something, from what you know, did they have something prepared for him? Or did he just come, did Vince just bring him back because of his namesake, 10 years prior?
Yeah, was it? Yeah, because he was an established name and a great villain. Mm-hmm. And if you want to get some good-looking young baby faces over, have him work the big bad heel. Yeah. And that's what he did.
Similar to what they did with Vader. I mean, they just crushed his character while he was there. He was WCW, he was the man, but they crushed his character while he was in WWE. Just kind of big man fodder to Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, and so yeah, that's unfortunate. And it seemed like
and Buddy and I would talk about the Hall of Fame quite a bit, and I know there was when they did the Raw Old School in Buffalo, I remember Howard Finkel calling me and asking me for Bundy's phone number. And Bundy's like, nah, they're not going to pay me enough. I don't want to go. I'm like, Chris, I go, this is good. Building, mending fences, the Hall of Fame. And he goes, Dave, I'm not going to the Hall of Fame. He goes, if they ask me, I'm not going to do it. And I'm like, well, why not? I go, it's a hell of a payday. It'll increase your bookings. And he goes, Dave, Coco Beware went in the Hall of Fame before me.
Yeah.
And, no knock on Coco Beware. Great career. I mean, what he did in Memphis and everything else, and as far as being one of the first high flyers, awesome. But, I mean, King Kong Bundy felt slighted, and he says, if Coco Beware is going in before I am, I'm not going to go in. Yeah. And he told me every year, I'd like, hey, if you get the call, he's like, Dave, I'm not going to go. So,
interestingly enough,
it's a shame. I mean, I'm sorry?
I was going to say I saw a retweet that he did on Twitter recent, a little bit before his passing, of retweeting someone who did say something about wanting him to be in the Hall of Fame. He did retweet that, so it seemed like he might have had a change of heart as of recent.
Well, no, I mean, listen, he was smart. He knew it would create buzz and get people talking. And let's face it, him and I were doing WrestleCon together.
True.
And he was like, hey, if we can get buzz about it, why not?
Yeah.
He's a businessman. He's very smart. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good point about that. Yeah. I mean, so what do you think about, so based on his family, do you think that his family would accept a posthumous induction? Because I think at this, Bundy should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, that's just, I can understand the slight, totally. I can understand that. And again, no knock toward Coco. I was a big Coco Beware fan as a kid, 100%, and I still am. But at the same time, Kofi was a mid-card at best in the WWE. His win-loss record was not impressive, and they put him in the Hall of Fame. Now, I don't know if it was a diversity call. I don't know exactly. I'm not backstage to know exactly what the mental, what the foundational decision making was toward putting Coco in there. But at the same time, it's like, there's people like Bundy, because you can't say, okay, well, Bundy never became champion in WWE. You can say the same thing about Coco. You know, because he never won a single belt.
You can say the same thing about Roddy Piper.
Sure can.
How about Roddy Piper?
Yeah.
He held one title, the IC title, for what, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
3 weeks? A month maybe? Yeah.
Yeah. DiBiase was tag champ and $1 Million champ, and he's one of the best heels of all time. You know, so I'm a big fan of titles, putting titles on people. But at the same time, look at Jake Roberts. Jake Roberts never had a single championship in the WWE. His entire run in the WWE never had a single belt.
Never needed it.
Never needed it because his character was so amazing. And I think I personally would say the same for Bundy.
Well, here's the thing. For some guys, the money is always in the chase.
Mm-hmm. True.
You know what I mean? Let them chase the title. Because when they get it, now the chase is over. Well, okay, now we lost interest. Now why do you want to cheer for you?
Mm-hmm.
But with Jake, he was such a great heel, and he was even an amazing babyface. And him chasing Honky Tonk Man, and him chasing, Ricky Steamboat, and him chasing Macho Man.
Mm-hmm.
It was great.
Yeah.
It was great TV, and they did great live events.
Yeah. So when Bundy's relationship ended with Vince in WWE in the mid-'90s, were there any other talks of bringing him back, or was it just one of those? He's not happy with the direction. He came in as, fodder for the younger guys just because he's a big name. Was there any talks of him coming back?
No, I mean they wanted to bring him back for some one-offs, like for some of the old school stuff.
Yeah.
I recently saw an interview with Tommy Dreamer where they wanted to bring him back to work with Randy Orton when Randy was doing the whole Legend Killer gimmick, and Bundy turned it down because the money wasn't anywhere near where he wanted it to be.
Got it.
And that's the thing with Bundy. I mean, he didn't want to have to leave his house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would get him bookings, sometimes double or even triple what he'd want,
mm-hmm.
but he just didn't want to leave. He's like, Dave, I've traveled enough. I just want to stay home. I mean, he loved being at home. He was a day trader. He owned some residential properties that he would rent out,
mm-hmm.
and he just wanted to be home and hang out with his cats, and that's who he was. I mean, there were many times he'd be on the phone talking, we'd be having a serious conversation about something, and all of a sudden he's like, Dave, I got to go feed my cats, and click, he'd hang up. I just laugh. It's like, I can't believe that this monster is concerned about cats. It's like, you've got to be kidding me,
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting to hear of such a soft heart for such a a big guy. So yeah, for sure. Well, and just to clarify, the spot with Taker was because he was unhappy with what he was booking. WWE kind of gave him that spot because of that.
I'm not too sure if his spot with Taker was because he was unhappy. But if you think about it, Taker was working giants back then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was like almost like Hogan, where he would work guys that were physically larger than him because he was a monster baby face.
Yeah. Yeah. Year before was...
so it was Bundy, it was El Gigante.
Yeah, John Gonzalez,
just bigger guys like that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was working the bigger names. Yeah, well, I mean, at least that's a part of his Hall of Fame resume for sure. I mean, to be able to have that spot, against the Undertaker. But and I guess my last question is, do you think that his family would accept a posthumous induction to the Hall of Fame?
You know what? I'm not sure. I mean, I know that they had a very private burial for him.
Mm-hmm.
It was just for the immediate family. They didn't invite anybody. I just think that they need time to heal, and they know how strongly against he was as far as going into the Hall of Fame, because he didn't want to. So, but yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, and if he does, it's not going to be for a few years.
Yeah. Because
there's so many other people that they still have to get in. And there's nothing more insulting than putting somebody in a year after they die.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, okay, and not saying WWE would be doing this, but are you trying to make a buck off him now that he's dead?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's just let time heal the wounds, let people go back to their lives, and then let there be a legitimate wanting for it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yep, 100% agree with that. And I definitely agree with the insulting part about, putting him in posthumously, right after, he died. I agree with that. So, and I stand, and I'm agree with you as far as just allowing him to organically come in, go in. I've said this before, even before he passed. I think he should be a part of the Hall of Fame, and I'm sticking with it. And hopefully the relationship with WWE just as a whole softens up for him to go in posthumously, because I think that would be a fantastic bow to a great career that he had.
Agreed. Absolutely agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's the thing. I want you to promote Shenanigans Party one more time. WrestleMania weekend. Where should the attendees of the WrestleMania weekend in New York come to? What day? Where is it at? And where's the website? Let them know about how amazing it's going to be.
It's Saturday. It's Saturday, April 6th. It's at McHale's in Times Square. If you go to @PWR Show on Twitter, or @David Herro with 2 R's, or @Real Kevin Nash, you will see that we have it pinned to the top of our timelines, and there's all the information regarding Shenanigans. If you get the VIP ticket, it's all you can drink. You pay one price to get in. You get to mingle. You get to meet Kevin Nash. You get autographs and photo ops. Katie Forbes will be there. Al Snow will be there. Rikishi's going to be there. I believe Val Venus. There's a whole bunch of other names that I can't mention because they are under contract with WWE and we cannot advertise them. But there will be a lot of the super friends, as I like to say, will definitely be in attendance.
Nice. So
it's going to be a lot of fun. It's my favorite night of the year because you never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to show up. And it's just a great place to hang out and enjoy. And, when you're in New York or when you're at WrestleMania, there's a lot of stuff going on. But at the end of the day, it's a big family reunion for a lot of wrestling fans that get together once a year and come to Shenanigans and just party up with us at McHale's on Saturday night, 10 p.m. until 3 a.m. in Times Square.
Saturday night. Dave, it's been a pleasure, man. I appreciate you coming back on the show again, and thanks for this conversation.
You bet.
Great. It's been great, man. Have a good night.
All right, my friend.
All right, bye-bye.
You take care. We'll see you soon. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. David Herro, thanks for coming on the show tonight, man. Awesome conversation with you, and I really enjoyed it. Absolutely. All right. Wide Awake. Al Snow does own OVW now. Yep. You're a weekly watcher. That's pretty awesome. All right. So let's jump right into the media call with Jay Lethal. It's about a half hour. So we will go into that. And after that, we will be right back.
It's the franchise, Jay Lethal. Good afternoon, champ.
What's up, guys?
All right. Let's get with the first. Yes.
Okay.
Hey.
It's just a little delay, that's all. Okay. How's it going?
All right. Thanks for joining us. Let's get right to the question. First one from Alex Jimenez from solowrestling.com in Barcelona. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey, Lisa. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Fine, man. Going into Madison Square Garden, New Japan is announcing that the IWGP Heavyweight title match will be the main event. How do you feel being right now the Ring of Honor World Champion, being the franchise, knowing that in Ring of Honor biggest event, the main event is going to be a New Japan match?
Well, I don't think it's a Ring of Honor show. I think it's a joint venture between New Japan and Ring of Honor. So the toss-up, probably the discussion was whose match is going to main event. And I think that as the Ring of Honor World Champion, as long as I'm on the show, then we're not doing a disservice to any of the fans. So yeah, I mean, I would love to be the end-all, be-all last match that they see. But if that's not the way that it's going, the chips are going to fall, because like I said, it's more than just a Ring of Honor show. This is a joint venture. This is the New Japan / Ring of Honor show. So if they got the lucky straw and their match is at the end of the day, then I'm excited for them, because I think that's a really cool thing to be able to say. But then again, I'm also excited for everybody on the show that day, because we're making history. Never did anyone think that an event other than WWE would, wrestling anyway, would be running in Madison Square Garden. So all the things that you thought were impossible, thanks to wrestling's boom period, are now becoming possible. The walls that we thought were impenetrable are now coming down. So we're about to make history. So it doesn't matter if I'm match number one or the main event. We're going to make history. The event is sold out, and should be one hell of a wrestling show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Alex. Next up is Alexandra from Slam Wrestling. Go ahead, Alexandra.
Hi, Jay. I was wondering, how did you feel about Matt Tavern unveiling his custom Ring of Honor World title, even though you were the actual title holder?
Well, I thought it was very disrespectful of Matt Tavern to do such a thing, although it was done many years ago by someone that I idolize, and Ric Flair. Ric Flair brought his own belt to the company that he went to. So in some way, I kind of see it as Matt Tavern paying homage to some of the great wrestlers in the past. Although, I mean, deep down inside, I wasn't a big fan of it, because it is a spit in the face to everybody who's held the real Ring of Honor World Championship. Guys that I've gotten the pleasure of working with and looked up to, like Samoa Joe and CM Punk. Guys like Bryan Danielson, legends in the making for some of them anyway. So to say that I don't want to put the hard work in to try and win the real belt, the real trophy, I'm going to make my own and claim that it's the number one thing, no matter where you are. If it's basketball, baseball, any sport that you would ever attempt that in, could be perceived as disrespectful. I just wasn't a big fan of it, that's all.
All right. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Alexandra. Next is Anthony Suter from Smart to Death. Go ahead, Anthony.
Hi, Jay. How are you today?
I'm doing good.
Hey, I'm well. Assuming that you're victorious on Friday, what are your plans, and how do you continue to carry the ROH brand through 2019, since you've really become the face of this company?
Well, I don't think I would change a thing. I think, I like to think that I'm doing a pretty good job. You know, I don't talk about it much, but it's so nerve-wracking and stressful to be the face and world champion of a company that has solidified itself on the wrestling map for being the company that produces some of the greatest matches in history. It is a company that, you know, from top to bottom will deliver from every match, whether it's the first or the last. And I am the world champion of that company. So all I can remember is watching before I became a wrestler and in the process of becoming a wrestler. And even once I became a wrestler, all I can remember in my head of Ring of Honor is guys like Samoa Joe with the company on his back, guys like AJ Styles and Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness. And then when I think about myself having to carry on the legacy and the work ethic that these men have, like I mentioned, they're legends. It is a bit stressful, but I do think that I'm doing a pretty good job, and I do think the stress is actually something that's helping me. Every wrestler, I think, performs better under a stressful environment, because that's when they really need to excel, and that's when you really see what a wrestler has to offer. And also, with that said, all I can really see right now, I've got tunnel vision. Everybody on our roster is excited about going into Madison Square Garden, not taking away anything from these other events that we got going on. I mean, we're in a few days away from live on pay-per-view, Las Vegas, Nevada, me versus Matt Taven for the World Championship. But right now, all anyone can see, like giddy little children, is Madison Square Garden, and I hope that I get through Matt Taven. I'm sure it won't be easy if I do, but I hope I get through Taven and through all the other events that we have, and I am able to walk into Madison Square Garden as the world champion. To me, that's a bucket list thing you get to check off. Man, I really hope that I make it to the Garden as the Ring of Honor World Champion. That's my ultimate goal.
Thank you. Good luck Friday.
Thank you very much. Hopefully you're watching.
All right, thanks, Anthony. Next up is Anton Jackson from Vulture Hound. Go ahead, Anton.
Good afternoon, Jay.
How's it going?
Going all right. You've pretty much been an ROH guy for most of your career, so you've seen a lot of change within the promotion. What's your perception of ROH now in 2019 compared to, say, 2004, 2005, especially, on the eve of Madison Square Garden pay-per-view and a landmark show like 17th anniversary?
And literally the only difference I see are the names. The names on the roster. That's the biggest difference, the most notable one anyway. I mean, we had guys like Samoa Joe, and I hate to keep bringing them up, but you got to when you talk about Ring of Honor. We had guys like Nigel, and just think about all the guys we had, and their work ethic, and what they all brought to the table. Fast forward now to the Ring of Honor of current day, same work ethic, except some of them are bringing a lot more than was offered before. Just their names are different, and that's the biggest change. Also, this goes without mentioning, the Ring of Honor of old had a little trouble getting their product out to the masses. We really focused on DVD sales. That was how we got our product out there. But now we're on television, backed by Sinclair Broadcasting. So, I mean, yeah. So the Sinclair Broadcasting thing, the fans don't really catch that. What they see instantly is just the new names, and that's probably the biggest takeaway. New names, but still same work ethic. Still, these matches are being put on like nobody's. I mean, we got a guy on the roster named Bandito Jr. He's only 23, and he can do things that most people only dream about doing in their sleep. And the crazy thing about that is, even when they're dreaming about doing it in sleep, they still can't perform it. But he can. It's unreal, the work ethic of some of these guys and what they can do. So the big difference, I would say, is the names on the roster. But the work ethic and the type of matches, it's still all the same.
All right. Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next is Chris from Pancakes and Powerslams. Go ahead, Chris.
Jay Lethal, how would you grade your day today?
What kind of scale are you giving me here? What is it? Letters, numbers?
Letters.
I'm going to give it an A grade.
Nice.
I live in Tampa, Florida, and the sun is always shining, so it's hard not to give my day an A.
Yeah, I can't complain about that. Yeah. So last time I was on this conference call with you, I actually gave you the countdown of how many days you needed to become the longest reigning ROH champion. You thought that was a lot of pressure, but I knew you could do it. You did it. And now, not only do you have the longest reigning, but you have the most title defenses. So I think it fits the moniker of being the greatest first-generation wrestler, as you proclaim yourself. So let's get to some other goals, since you've basically done it all in ROH and will continue to do it and hold it up high. So my question to you is: so we've seen Ric Flair, we've seen Macho Man, who you do very well, both of them. We've seen Sid. What are some impersonations that we can see from Jay Lethal that are up your sleeve in the near future?
The best impersonation I think I've got is the greatest world champion in the history of Ring of Honor, which would be myself. I most of those characters you mentioned that I did, those were still all at a time when I was still finding out and mastering myself. For me, it has always been easier to draw strength and confidence from being someone else until I learned how to be comfortable and confident about being myself. And then also there was a comedy factor, and people love a good impression. They really do. So that was another reason why I did some of those. I think my imitation days are possibly behind me, although I don't mind pulling out once in a while a character that I've already done, like Machismo or Ric Flair. But to search for the next good imitation I have, I think that's over. Right now I'm more about, currently anyway, leading the charge of Ring of Honor, flying that banner flag and producing what Ring of Honor is used to producing, which is some of the greatest wrestling matches in the world. And although it'd be entertaining to do some comedy, maybe a couple more impressions, I think right now I've got to focus on being a little more serious, because you've got guys like Matt Taven vying for the Ring of Honor World Championship, and something about that, it goes beyond this the realm and scope of what professional wrestling really is. Matt Taven, although I don't get along with him that well, he's got an amazing work ethic, and it's driven by the fact that he would love to be in the spot that I am, which is the world champion, leading the company, putting the company proverbially on your back. Matt Taven is out to show that when given the same opportunity, he could strive, and he definitely would. And I'm out to make sure that I keep that spot for myself, not because I'm selfish, but because it's the dream spotlight for any professional wrestler. And right now is not the time for me to find out what is the next impression that I could do. Right now, I'm worried about remaining Ring of Honor World Champion so that we could go into Madison Square Garden as the world champion. Because, like I mentioned before, that's definitely something that I'm going to be checking off of my bucket list. You mentioned, though, before setting these goals. Now, I had never set the goal that you had set upon me to become the longest reigning world champion or the most title defenses. I didn't set that goal, you did, because actually I'm afraid to set goals for myself, because I've gotten to do everything that I've gotten to do in professional wrestling without ever having to set a goal. I have compared my wrestling career to winning the lottery. I've been in the right place at the right time, and when presented with those opportunities, I have had the skills to back it up. So I'm afraid that if I started setting goals for myself, they wouldn't come true. The only goal that I've ever set in professional wrestling is to hold on to this Ring of Honor World Championship long enough to walk into Madison Square Garden with it. And with Vegas a few days away, I hope that I have not jinxed myself. So.
Well, Jay, I'll take credit for setting those goals for you. Thank you. And okay.
Do me a favor, set some more goals for me. As long as I don't do it, but I can't jinx myself. So
sounds good. Well, walking out of MSG is walking out of Vegas and MSG is world champ, and hopefully we'll see your previous theme song too, man. I missed that theme song.
Do you really?
I do.
Maybe I'll go back to it.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks, Chris. Next, Evan from Under the Mat Radio. Go ahead, Evan.
Yes, how you doing today, Mr. Lethal?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well. I wanted to ask you, what's the name? You being the longest reigning Ring of Honor heavyweight champion, most title defenses, being because of Ring of Honor, whatever happened to be in the future Hall of Fame. Of course, you'll be first ballot with your title defenses, with your long tenure there. You nicknamed the franchise, being called that. Of course, you know, the likes of NBA great Steve Francis, Francisco Liriano, Sting, Shane Douglas. With your name being this franchise, your nickname, I should say, how do you feel about the nickname, and does that add any pressure for you being the franchise of ROH when you think of Ring of Honor currently and even a few years before? The first man you think about being a world heavyweight champion is Jay Lethal. Talk about how you feel about the nickname and if you have any added pressure with performing and holding that Ring of Honor flag.
Well, there is pressure, but not from the nickname. I think the nickname more so came from my body of work, and every time I go out there, it's clear that I'm working for one goal, and that is to strengthen this company. That is to make Ring of Honor bigger than it was yesterday. People took notice of that everywhere I go around the world. And Ring of Honor allows some of their wrestlers to do other wrestling shows around the world as well, because they realize that the more we spread the Ring of Honor name, the bigger the company will go. So even when I go overseas, a few shows overseas, I still have the Ring of Honor shirt back. I mean, I just tout the company's flag everywhere I go. And I think that's what got me the nickname. So the extra pressures of being the Ring of Honor World Champion has nothing to do with the nickname, although I do love the nickname because I love Ring of Honor. But it's on me, like I mentioned before, to help Ring of Honor stay along the same lines that it's been traveling on since the beginning of its timeline, and that is putting on these fantastic matches that people want to look up and YouTube, and they're this match of the year candidate. Ring of Honor has always produced matches like that because it's always had one of the best rosters in the world. No matter what era, time frame, you go back and look at Ring of Honor's roster, it always the best wrestlers out there. And if you need proof of that, just look at everyone else's roster and see that everyone higher up on their cards came from Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor's constantly having their rosters plucked through to make other rosters better. And it's something that's happened since the beginning of Ring of Honor's timeline up until now. And the Ring of Honor, the only reason they've been able to survive is because they don't hem and haw, and they don't try and find a replacement, because some people are irreplaceable. You know, they just go out and look for other talent out there and say, come on, there's a couple spots available now, and you're not here to replace anyone. You're here to show the world what you can do. And it's always done a great job of doing that, which is why we're in the position we are right now. We're about to have a live pay-per-view in Las Vegas, and we've got a sold-out Madison Square Garden as we enter our joint show with New Japan. So the company is great. But, yeah, the added pressure is definitely there, but not from the nickname, although I do love the nickname. The franchise.
Thank you, sir. Thank
you.
All right, thanks, Evan. Thanks, Jay. Next up is James Walsh from Wrestling Epicenter. Go ahead, James. James, go ahead. All right, no James. All right, Jason Frazier from ESPN Radio in St. Louis. Go ahead, Jason.
Hey, Jay, how's it going?
Jason, like I mentioned, I'm in Florida, so it's going real good.
Yeah, it's better than St. Louis. We're like 38 degrees here. You're doing much better than me.
Oh, man. It's going well. It's going well.
I want to ask you a question because in regards to, you know, being a young African-American myself, growing up and seeing African-American superstars such as Booker T and Mark Henry, even going back, I can remember all the Junkyard Dog too as well. what does it mean for you to kind of be a role model for young African American fans and also up-and-coming wrestlers also, and coming up in the business, young African American wrestlers too as well?
It's amazing. It means I couldn't be prouder of myself and of all African Americans out there to say that, I hate to talk like this because when we make the conversation about a specific race or type of people, that kind of leaves other people out, which is why I don't normally talk about it, but it's not that I'm naive or blind to it, but African Americans normally have traditionally not been given the opportunities that, let's say, I have to become the face of a company. And I've got to say that it means the world to me. And I really like the fact that it also is showing that times are changing. Not to say that the company that I work for has ever had any bias against any race, especially my company, the company that I work for, Ring of Honor, but it has happened in wrestling in general. And luckily I work for a company that I've never had to put on some kind of facade or play into any stereotypical role as an African American. So I've got to say that I am extremely proud of myself and everything that this company has allowed me to do. And if anything that I've been allowed to do has helped or inspired anybody, no matter what race they are, but specifically any African American, then I've got to say I'm extremely proud.
Thank you, Jay, for those words. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jason. I think James Walsh is
here. A box to just.
No worries.
All right. So I'm back in. Pleasure to talk to the franchise. Mr. Leaf, it's a pleasure to talk to you. So my question for you. Watching Ring of Honor TV the other day, you guys created a moment when you destroyed the imposter Ring of Honor World Champion, that of Matt Taven. Not Mr. Taven, but Taven's belt. When you destroyed that belt, it kind of brought everything back. Instead of everybody being giddy and, as you said, looking past possibly the 17th anniversary show to Madison Square, and reminded everybody that there is a major main event happening on pay-per-view on Friday night with yourself against Mr. Taven. I feel like some people might be sleeping on Mr. Taven. They might think that he's not going to be able to take the title from Taven.
I definitely think that a lot of people are sleeping on Matt Taven. I'm hurt, but I am slighted that Taven, anyone's questions to him is, what is it like to be stepping into the ring with Jay matching into you? And no one has really asked me, what is it like stepping into the ring with Matt Taven, or my thoughts on that match. And the reason it hurts is because Matt Taven, he is so driven and hungry, and it makes him excel very well in the wrestling business. A burning desire to show the world that he can hang with anybody. And it is true. That is the sad part. It is true. Some people don't see past certain things. It's definitely true. I get to see Matt Taven before those cameras start rolling. And I've got to tell you, the work ethic from this guy, it's amazing. So I definitely do believe, although we don't see eye to eye all the time, Taven is definitely not only saying he's a viable threat is an understatement. Taven has what it takes. And I tell you one thing that I don't mind saying, although I would fear for what he would do as the Ring of Honor World Champion, I don't fear for the company at all. Because if Taven were to become the Ring of Honor World Champion, I know that he prides himself on being the number one guy of a company known around the world for its wrestling. He would go above and beyond in every match, like no matter if there's 10 people there or 10,000, you're going to get your money's worth if Matt Taven is in the ring. So it is a little sad that some people are sleeping on him, but it goes without saying because he's not the nicest person in the world, but if given the chance, Taven would be one hell of a Ring of Honor World Champion, and he is given the chance, and we'll see if that's possible on pay-per-view.
Very cool. As a guy who grew up in New Jersey, just a few miles from you, where you grew up, I know Madison Square Garden is a huge show, but I'm glad to hear you're not living past Las Vegas, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, Las Vegas has the potential to change and shake up a lot of things that are already planned. So there'd be so many things that have to be changed. Actually, there's so many things that are going to have to be changed, because even if I do retain, there's still a few things that need to be fixed up. But there's so much on the line in Vegas, I don't think people understand. But that's because everyone's excited about Madison Square Garden, wrestling in Madison Square Garden. Everyone's excited about wrestling in Madison Square Garden. It's going to be wild.
Cool, thank you. And I appreciate you guys wanting to get my question in, even though I was absenteeism a few moments ago.
No worries. We believe you. That button just wasn't working. Did we lose Mark Kruskal?
All right, next is Sean from Fightful. Oh, no, you will never lose me. Go ahead.
Hey, Jay, thanks for taking the time. I asked Matt about that Real World Championship belt, which was destroyed. What were your thoughts on the belt, how it looked compared to the actual World Championship? Did you have any feelings about that from your perspective?
From a visual perspective, I don't know if you got to see it up close. Oh, okay. It looked just like my belt. It just was purple and had more stones on it. From Matt Damon's perspective, though, it was his and he owned it, so that's what made it good. But just from a visual perspective, I mean, I don't think it was ugly. What it represented was, but it would look the same as my belt, just with the purple strap and it had more stones on it. That's all. And his name was on it. That's probably his favorite part.
And it's significantly more damaged now.
Now it is, yes. I'd be lying if I said that wasn't one of the most fun things I've ever done, getting to destroy the belt. I got to use a bat. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I don't think I've ever hit anything with an axe or a bat before. So I played Little League a long time ago, but unfortunately, I'm an awful baseball player, so I never hit the ball. I got to the bases once because I got walked. So I've never been good at baseball, so I never hit anything with a baseball bat.
So that's a part of your Randy Savage impersonation that isn't accurate.
Right, which is why you've never seen me talk about that part, right? Oh, man. I've never checked or anything, so I've never used that. But yeah, thank you.
All right, thanks, Sean. Next is Stu Budrick from 104.9 FM The Horn, Austin. Go ahead, Stu.
Thank you, Mark. How you doing, champ? Good to talk to you again.
Good to talk to you. I'm doing good. I'm in Tampa, Florida.
You're in Tampa, Florida?
Where are you? Yeah, where are you at?
I'm in Austin, Texas. So we're both doing pretty good.
Okay. We got the same kind of weather. Yeah.
You were just back in February. Let me ask this. I want to go kind of a different route. Talking about heading to the garden and everything. I want to talk about a relationship you have with someone that I'm lucky enough to call a friend, Kerry Silkin. He and you have a very strong bond. Just talk about your relationship with him and what he has meant to you and your career.
Oh man, do we have the time? Kerry Silkin, and years ago when I met him, just a different time, we didn't really talk as much, and it makes me sad because seeing how close we are today means that I missed out on a few years of one of the best friendships I've ever had in my life. He's been like a. I hope he doesn't feel old when I say this, but he's been almost like a second dad to me. My dad now is the greatest dad in the world, but I feel like I have two dads. That's the type of relationship. He's been there anytime I've ever needed advice or help with anything. He's always there. And we share the same love for music. He's actually turned me on to Jethro Tull. And he took me to I went to my first concert ever with Carrie Silken, and I talked to him constantly on the phone, and it's one of the greatest friendships I have. But if I had to describe what the friendship is like, it's like me having a second dad. And I love it because I love my first dad, so of course I would love my second.
Couldn't agree more. He's a good friend, and thanks for the words.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right. Thanks to Jay Lethal for the ROH media call. That was part 2 last week, was Matt Taven, part 1. And for those who did watch the ROH 17th anniversary, if you didn't, go catch it on demand. Go to Honor Club. Go to Catch It on Demand. I did watch the entire show through Honor Club, and it was a good show. Of course, Brody King and PCO winning the tag team championships. I guess spoiled it for you, but well, you know, it's all over. It's everywhere now as far as coverage is concerned. Go check out that Jay Lethal and Matt Taven match. Certainly a match of the year candidate. I'm not going to spoil that one for you, but I'm sure that everybody's covering it. You know, it came on last weekend, so there's been coverage galore on it because it was a very awesome show. So check it out. Cody says total spoiler. It's not a spoiler though, because the spoiler is I'll spoil it for you if it happens beforehand, but it's happened afterwards. It's the show was like 4 days old, 3 days old. So, 3-4 days old. So, I'm sure it's been covered everywhere because, the fact that PCO actually won a championship, that's big. His comeback tour has been pretty awesome. He really made a name for himself as far as coming back in MLW. So good stuff for PCO. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump right into the show. The fact that we only got about a half hour left in the show. This is Plan A, and I'll tell you, I think the anniversary show in a couple of weeks, it may be Plan B, because this Blog Talk Radio, man, they dropped my call, they dropped David Herro's call like twice each, and so yeah, I've had a partnership with them for almost 7 years now, and yeah, but I do want to show you all something. I do want to show you all something really, really cool. I want to pull it up on the screen here. Something that's just happened within the past week. See, the Pancakes and Powerslams show, again, we are doing some big things, as you all know. It is continuing to be a very, very, very successful show. Almost 7 years. We'll be celebrate 7 years in 2 weeks. 364 episodes. And, of course, 150 guests, about 150 guests. We have like over 200 interviews, I believe. Something crazy like that. And continuing to bring in some awesome guests for you all every week. Some wrestling interviews every week. We're going to have my boy Sean Stasiak back on. We got the 2-year anniversary with some awesome surprises set up for the 2-year anniversary show. Same as Mania weekend, so it's going to be lots and lots of fun. So it's going to be really, really awesome. Interesting, Cody. Yes, I do. Never really paid attention to my background. You know, it's so funny. This whole time, you coming to tell me this whole time? Yeah. See all the posters, all the WrestleMania posters, all of them. There's WrestleMania 1 right there, 2, 3, so on the first row, and then next to me, right there, WrestleMania 7, WrestleMania 5, WrestleMania 4, WrestleMania 11. Y'all can see WrestleMania X7, 20. I think it's 22 to the left of me, or 23. Yep. And scoot over. All the other WrestleMania posters. Yep. WrestleMania posters is my background. So glad you noticed. Glad you noticed, Cody. Glad you finally noticed. But yeah, go to Honor Club. Go check out the anniversary show, the 17th anniversary show on ROH Honor Club. But not only the anniversary show, check out ROH. I mean, you know, I've always been a fan of ROH. They've always been such an amazing show, amazing promotion. So many people came from Pancakes, from the so many people was on the Pancakes and Powerslams show from Ring of Honor, and yeah, continue to be one of the hottest shows in all of professional wrestling. All right, so I got something to show y'all. Y'all ready for it? And so as of last week, the Pancakes and Powerslams show is now on Spotify. Look at here. So this is huge, ladies and gentlemen. Pancakes and Powerslams is now on Spotify. You can check it out. Follow it on Spotify. Has all the shows there, as you can see. Media Call, Mac Taven, Sean Stasiak, Black Bart, Bobby Fulton, Chris Masters, Ken Anderson, Adam Rose, who just announced his retirement. Actually, I had him on the show the end of January, and just like 6 weeks ago. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. 6-7 weeks ago, and just that quickly, he announced his retirement. So, best wishes to Adam Rose. Yeah, interestingly enough, it just kind of came from nowhere. Just like the fact that I have the hiccups right now. I think this is the first time in 364 episodes that I've had the hiccups live. Wow. But yeah. I have the hiccups. So check it out on Spotify, ladies and gentlemen. Check out the Pancakes and Powerslams show on Spotify. That's huge. I mean, that's a big deal, man. I mean, as an independent podcast who bust my butt to have quality shows and have quality episodes every single week, that's a big deal. So, okay. So, thank you all for your support, continued support, on the show here. And I literally have the hiccups. That's crazy. Great segue for, what's in the cup. Hashtag what's in the cup. So thank you all for your support as I have the hiccups. Yeah. So check it out on Spotify. Check it out. Check it out on Spotify. Thank you all again for your support. And go check out, go follow the show on Patreon. I hear my mood. There's the site right there. Pancakes and Powerslams. Hashtag what's in the cup. Okay, this week, what's in the cup? What's in the cup is It's orange juice. Back to some good quality OJ. Yeah. Apple. Nope. Orange juice is in the cup. Orange juice. Yep, you were close, Mo. You sure was. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's chomp this down. We got some fun. Yeah, I do. I love OJ too. Big fan of OJ. Yeah, so please go check out Spotify. Go check it out. Spotify. That's huge. It's crazy because your support and everybody who's listening to audio. Wado says, "No, I don't drink, so I'm not going to throw gin in the cup. I don't drink, so I don't drink alcohol." Yeah. Go check out Spotify, and again, appreciate your support. And because of the Spotify, because the show is Spotify, because Spotify picked up the show, we've already had awesome. We've already had some awesome numbers. I'm reading the chat room. I'm reading the chats as I'm talking right now. That's the reason why I'm kind of stopping myself, but we've already had great numbers, but at the same time, because of Spotify picking us up, numbers has even spiked more. So thank you all for your wonderful, wonderful support. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, you know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen. You know what time it is. It's time for the headlines. Here we go. Okay, so let's talk about the Undertaker. So there's some rumors that he could appear at WrestleMania 35. I've already said that we were supposed to be talking about this last week, but we ran out of time. We gotta go. We're out of time. Oh, Tony Schiavone there. But here's the thing. I've said this many times. WrestleMania 28 should have been the last show for The Undertaker. And I still stand by that. Still, as the years progress, this is 7 years later, I still think that WrestleMania 28 should have been the last WrestleMania for The Undertaker. Fantastic send-off. I didn't like the haircut at all. I didn't like the Uncle Fester look. But I think that would have been a perfect send-off for The Undertaker. The Hell in a Cell, beating Triple H, Shawn Michaels as the guest referee. That was such a wonderful, wonderful send-off. Uncle Fester, LOL, is what Mo was saying. Yeah, it looked like Uncle Fester, man. I didn't like it at all. So yeah, I wasn't a fan of it at all. But the match, the story, just the poignancy, it was the emotion. It was such an amazing match. Almost got the streak broken. At that time the streak was still intact, and I still am very adamant I'm okay that Roman Reigns beat The Undertaker, but if it was still up to me, I wouldn't have had the streak broken. So if anybody, I'm okay with Roman Reigns, because Roman Reigns is the guy for WWE, and I was actually rooting for Roman Reigns as much as I love Taker. He's in my top 10 of all time, but I was actually rooting for The Undertaker just because I just didn't want to see Undertaker competing anymore at all. And I think that Roman Reigns, beating Taker was a good call. But I haven't been a fan of Undertaker's WrestleManias after. And I've said this before in the show. No Taker WrestleMania has after 28 has changed my mind on why 28 should have been the last WrestleMania, and I still stand by that. Punk, Wyatt, Shane, Lesnar, even what was 30? Yeah, 32 was Shane. 31 was Bray, 30 was Brock, and 29 was Punk. And 34 was Cena. And so none of them, other than Reigns, I would say Reigns, but still not enough to end his streak. I mean, to come back after 28. So, yeah. Taker's matches selling WrestleMania. That's why they keep doing it. No, because they really didn't do it last year. They didn't do a good job last year. I mean, he was just a pop-up against Cena last year. Now, here's the thing. Let's go into the other headline was, of course, Kurt Angle talking about, Kurt Angle announcing that Baron Corbin's the guy for WrestleMania, and that was very negatively reviewed, very negatively accepted, received by the WWE Universe, and even Jim Ross saying it was underwhelming. Which I can understand. I would like Angle to have that last hurrah, and win. But, it's funny because as much people don't like Cena, we want Cena chance. But here's the thing. I was thinking about this earlier, and I'm seeing a little bit of it on the chat here. I'm wondering if the lights go off and it's actually Taker that comes out for Angle. So, but even with that though, I mean that would get a quick pop. That would get a quick pop. But it's like they're both 50 and over. It's like, I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not too sold about that. Like I said, it would get a quick pop. But Kurt has been struggling in the ring. I mean, he's been struggling in the ring. So he needs someone who would be able to really help him with the match. Even last year, he struggled a bit in the tag match. I think the tag match was the best match at Mania because I was there at Mania. That was the most exciting match, and I think that was the best match at Mania. Last year's Mania was quite weak overall, and I was I'm a big Roman Reigns guy. I wanted him to win, and with Bray winning, people were just crapping on that match. It was a rough, and then the squash with the Usos and New Day against the Bludgeon Brothers, Nicholas being Braun's partner. Last year's Mania was quite weak. One of the only good things was, the Daniel Bryan coming back to Mania and teaming with Shane against KO and Zayn. That was a good match. But just as far as excitement, the Rousey match was the best one to me, but not because of Angle, because Angle still looked slow. And we've been seeing, like, the match with Gable was cool. Match with Apollo was cool. But I don't know. It's been tough for Angle. So I don't neither of them would be able to carry the match. Now, if this happened 15 years ago, I'd be all for it. But Undertaker versus Angle now, I'm not buying it so much. Now, if they do something like Corbin beating Angle, and then Taker coming out and Corbin doing an open challenge or something like that, and then Taker coming out and challenging Corbin, I'll be okay with that a little bit more. But, yeah. Cody says Demon Finn versus Angle would be cool. They're going to do that. They're going to do Finn versus Lashley. They're going to do Demon Finn versus Lashley, I think. I think that's quite obvious that they're going to do Demon Finn versus Lashley. A couple trivia questions. This person was the special guest referee of Hart versus Austin at WrestleMania 13. This person was the special guest referee of Hart versus Austin at WrestleMania 13. Next headline is Renee Young. Good job, Brandon. Good job, Brandon. Ken Shamrock. Next question. The tagline for this WrestleMania was the Mega Powers explode. Or as Vince McMahon would say, the Mega Powers explode. Nope. Nope. There it is. Brandon, two for two. WrestleMania 5. Man, check out those interviews. Check out Randy Savage's WrestleMania 5 interview. I wish I could play it, but I get pinged by WWE. I won't be able to play it, but I'll probably share it on my Twitter. Man, listen. Randy Savage's WrestleMania 5 promo, talking about saying Hulk Hogan is hot dogging and grandstanding, yeah, and talk about how he had those eyes for Elizabeth, yeah, and man, check it out. Like Hogan's was good too. Hogan's promo toward Savage was good too. But Savage's WrestleMania 5 promo was one of my favorite promos of all time. Of course, Hard Times is number one. Randy Savage WrestleMania 5 toward Hogan, that was one of my favorite promos of all time. Just, I see you hot dogging and grandstanding here. It was absolutely amazing, and go check it out. I'm gonna check it out most likely after the show, just to kind of get myself in that WrestleMania mentality. Wide. Cream of the Crop was really good too. That was one of the best Savage promos, but there was something about that WrestleMania 5, because at the end it's like, hey, WrestleMania 5, like he was like he was like veiny, and he really like got himself in character so much. It was absolutely amazing. And it was one of those times, it was like, you know what? How in the world can how can I miss this match? Because the build-up was so amazing. How can I miss the match? And it was really awesome. I really liked that promo. All right, next trivia question. Who was the Undertaker's only disqualification win against at WrestleMania? Who was the Undertaker's only disqualification win against at WrestleMania? Yep. Good job. Cody and Brandon. John Gonzalez. Yeah, with the chloroform. yeah, I remember that. All right, so yeah, Renee Young told to talk less during commentaries. She talked about that in one of her recent podcasts. That she was talking about she can have diarrhea of the mouth, and she was told to listen more and talk less. And kudos to Renee Young, first of all, to be honest. To say something like that, because that's a big deal. I mean, that takes a lot of humility to say that. So I give her credit for that. I agree, though. I agree. I just, unfortunately, I've said this before. I'm just not. This may be an unpopular opinion alert, and maybe, but I'm just not a fan of Renee Young in the commentary booth. I'm not a fan. I don't even know who I would have. Okay, so as far as my Raw, I would have. And here's the thing: two things need to happen in commentary. Renee needs to go. True. I mean, I don't like Renee Young on commentary. I'm so used to. See, here's the thing. I'm not. Yeah, I agree, Kimbo. She's way better interviewing. Now, and as far as interviewing, she's fantastic. She's a fantastic interviewing. Yeah, bring talking smack back for her. I agree, Tammy. I agree with that. She's fantastic as an interviewer. But I'm not going to lower my standard as a wrestling fan. You know, the McMahon McMahon Jesse tandem, the Monsoon Heenan tandem, even Shivani Heenan, I'm not going to lower my standards. I mean, even oh goodness, what's my boy's name from Memphis Wrestling? So yeah, Dave Brown and the legend, one of the legends. That's gonna bug me. Oh goodness, it's right on the top of my tongue. It's so Dave Brown and I'm looking at it right now. Glasses. Such a Lance Russell. Goodness, I was like, it starts with LLL. Yeah, Lance Russell and Dave Brown and Memphis Wrestling. That was another really cool duo. And there's been, of course, JR and King, of course. Cody's asking, do you think it's all Renee though? So are they scripted or just can't do their jobs properly? Well, I would say this. Corey Graves is doing a decent job. He knows how to do those one-liners. So I wouldn't say it's all. I wouldn't really say the script is causing them to do their jobs improperly as far as the announcing. Now Foley has said before that he didn't like the fact that he would get. I agree, Kimbo. He's talking way too much, and Mamu said Corey Graves is annoying. I think as a heel, that's the point, though. He's supposed to be a heel announcer. So that's the point. I think two things needs to happen in the announce booth. I think Renee has to go, and Corey Graves being on Raw and SmackDown is not good. I don't like that at all. I think they should only put him on one, Raw or SmackDown, and I think the best trio right now is NXT. As far as WWE is concerned, the best trio right now is NXT. I'm a big fan of Mauro Ranallo, Nigel McGuinness, and Percy Watson. I think that as far as just the most improved announcer, people be sleeping on Percy Watson, man. I think Percy Watson he's starting to become a very, very good announcer, color commentator. It's very underrated. Big fan of him. I think that trio, all around, that trio is fantastic. NXT trio is the best. I think the best commentating team in all of pro wrestling right now is Kevin Kelly and Don Callis. I think those are my two favorite. I mean, that's my favorite team. I would say a very close second is Mauro, Nigel, and Percy for sure. But yeah, I like Kimbo. I liked Booker T on commentary because he was a personality. Like a lot of the announcing sounds so cookie cutter now. With Gorilla Monsoon and Heenan and Jesse and Vince McMahon and JR and King, they all had personalities. They all brought personalities to WWE. Now, Jesse Ventura is a Hall of Famer. As a wrestler, yes, but he really, people growing up in the 80s and the 90s, they know Jesse more as an announcer. Yeah, he was definitely a wrestler. He definitely was a very, very popular wrestler in the WWE. But, I mean, they know Gorilla Monsoon. He's a Hall of Famer. They know him as an announcer, although he was a wrestler, but they know him as an announcer. Bobby Heenan, he was a good manager, but he was also a very good announcer. Hall of Famer. JR is a Hall of Famer. Announcer. King's a Hall of Famer. Legendary Memphis wrestler, USWA, AWA. But as far as WWE Hall of Fame, WWE fans know him as a commentator more than anything. So, people make the Hall of Fame because of their commentating. I can't see. I mean, they'll probably put Michael in just because of his tenure, but I can't see anyone in the past 5, 7 years, 10 years probably, go into the WWE Hall of Fame as a commentator, as a broadcast journalist, or as a color commentator. I can't see it. In the 80s and the 90s, I just named you a handful of them, of people who went in because of their commentating skills. But nowadays, I can't see anyone go into the Hall of Fame because of their commentating, and that's unfortunate, because commentating brings such an amazing part. Don Callis said this on one of his podcasts. It brings such a big part to the overall wrestling experience, and to really put people over. Yeah, I agree. Mahmood is asking again. Ask Chris so they can stand out. Mahmood's asking Tony Schiavone for the WWE Hall of Fame. Yes, absolutely. I think he should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. Absolutely. All right, so Raw and SmackDown overall. Raw was decent. Actually, Raw was a bit underwhelming overall. I liked Apollo Crews winning. Oh yeah, speaking of Warrior Award, they actually gave it to someone who it seems like so Dana Warrior's in the backstage team now. It seems like she probably she probably lobbied for them to actually give it to someone who the Warrior Award was originally intended to, the people who have been such a big part of the WWE development, who has been who needs to be recognized, and they're doing that this year finally. So the Warrior Award is actually what it's supposed to be finally. So I'm a big fan of that. I'm all a fan of celebrating heroic things, and JJ last year was there. It was cool. That's awesome, but that's not what the Warrior Award was originally intended for. So I'm glad that they're finally doing that. And I think that Jim Johnston, Jim Johnston should be a Warrior Award for next year. 100%. He should be Warrior Award recipient for next year. Although he's not with the WWE anymore, bring back Jim Johnston. Give the man a Warrior Award, because he deserves it 100%. Mahmoud is asking, what's your thoughts of Kofi losing to Daniel Bryan? Doesn't help stretch the story in 2 weeks to build a match of Mania. So that goes back to my SmackDown thoughts. Good promo by the Miz. Miz is a good promo guy. Definitely a good promo guy. I'm just losing steam. I'm just losing interest on Becky and Charlotte. Unfortunately, they're not keeping me interested. And then the gauntlet was cool. You're 2 weeks before Mania, dude. I mean, come on. To me, that's silly. Honestly, it's silly. I don't know. It's silly. I'll probably put him in the Andre Battle Royal or something like that. I can see them putting Kofi in the Andre Battle Royal, and the winner of the Battle Royal faces Daniel Bryan or something like that. And something silly. I think it's just overkill. I mean, make us hyped about the match. Don't keep doing just the whole, keep stretching it and stretching it. We know Kofi's going to face Daniel Bryan. Like, quit stretching it. All right, before we end here, all right, let's get to the flavor of the week. Here we go.
It is now time for the flavor of the week.
Yeah, Huddle was saying they're making it not believable. Yeah, I agree, man. Just why? I mean, why keep stretching it? All right, so we're continuing with the pro wrestling controversial questions. I still got some in the basket, so we'll probably ride this out until Mania. All right, so the next one, we only got time for like maybe 1 or 2 questions, so here we go. Here's the controversial question. The Undertaker's WrestleMania winning streak should have never been broken. Undertaker's WrestleMania winning streak should have never been broken. Quick thoughts on that controversial question. I've shared my thoughts on it. I think it should have never been broken. Definitely. Cody says nope, but it was his choice. Yeah, I don't think it was. Even if it was his choice, Brock wasn't the guy. I think Evan's going to join us for the last couple of minutes. Evan Tech Proud, how are you doing, sir?
Better now, guys. I'm glad to be here. Sorry, my internet was out, and so was my power. So,
oh man,
please here for the next minute.
Brandon, I agree. Mo agrees. Tam agrees. Kimbo agrees. Wyatt agrees. Mahmoud agrees. I don't think it should have been the last match. Brock wasn't the person. All right, one more question. Real quick, Evan, do you think Taker's streak should have been broken? That's the question that's on deck right now.
No. She still should have been undefeated. Still should be undefeated today.
Yep, I agree. All right, last question. Got a couple more minutes. Last question. Here it is. I'm picking it out of the basket. There's more questions in the basket, but here's the last one for tonight. Here we go. Here it is. I haven't read it in a while. Ratings-wise, John Cena is the biggest wrestler who contributed to WWE's decline. Ratings-wise, John Cena is the biggest wrestler who contributed to WWE's decline. We have 1 minute, guys. Let me hear your thoughts on this real quick. We might even talk about more about this later.
Oh man.
What are your thoughts on that?
Wow.
Again, the controversial question is ratings-wise, John Cena is the biggest wrestler who contributed to WWE's decline.
I mean, I have to agree. I have to agree.
Yep. I agree. I agree, ladies and gentlemen. Mo doesn't believe that. I do.
He had the longest run. 15 years, he was on top. Hogan was only on top for 6. Look at anybody else's run. Everybody was 6 or less. Yep. 15 years, people got tired.
Yep. Mo doesn't believe it. Mamo says
90
no.
seconds.
Wide says Vince shove them down our throats. I'm going to say yes. Huddle says no. Cody says maybe. I say yes, because if you think about the last dozen years has been the decline of WWE. If you look at ratings-wise, Attitude Era was amazing. After about 2000 to 2001, that's when it started declining away from the average, about a 6. Until then, still averaged about 5s and 4s. And then, during the Cena era, yeah. Like Cody said, he agreed to all the Super Cena moments. So I think that's really made it really tough. So we'll talk more about that. Bring that up as an Ask Chris question. We'll talk more about that on next week's show if someone brings it up. So bring it up next week and we'll talk more about it. I think we should dissect that a little bit more. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, until next week, thanks Evan Tech Prout for getting his power together to join us for a little bit of the show. Of course, thanks for David Herro, media call with Jay Lethal, and we're going to continue to have some fun. It's been 364 episodes. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your week of wrestling. God bless, and always remember,
10 seconds.
I do it for you. Once again, I do it for you. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye. God bless.